Imagine this. You're in the middle of nowhere. The land stretches endlessly in every direction. The air is heavy, filled with a thick, unnatural silence. No birds, no rustling leaves, just the sound of your own heartbeat pounding in your ears. The sun is sinking low in the sky, casting long, stretching shadows across the barren savanna. The heat of the day still lingers in the air, but there's something unsettling about this moment. Out here, in the wild, it's easy to forget that anything can happen. And then you hear it, a faint, distant sound. It's barely a whisper at first, but it grows louder. It's a child's cry. There, in the middle of the wilderness, a young boy sits alone, hunched over, tears running down his face. His clothes are torn, his body bruised. His sobs echo across the desolation. He's lost, abandoned, struggling to make sense of why he's been left here, all alone, with no one to help. He doesn't see the danger that's coming. A low, almost imperceptible growl breaks the silence. From the tall grass a figure emerges. Its movements are graceful, deliberate. With each step the creature draws closer, its powerful body moving through the terrain as if it owns it. A massive lion. Its golden fur shimmers in the fading light. The beast is not rushing, it's not hungry, not threatening. But there's an undeniable intensity in its eyes as it approaches. It knows exactly where it's going. The boy, too lost in his own misery to notice, continues to cry. The lion slows down, eyes fixed on him. What happens next? What unfolds in this desolate place is nothing short of extraordinary. You won't believe it. Hang on, because what comes next will challenge everything you thought you knew about the wilds. Before we jump into this captivating story, let us know where you're tuning in from in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe for more unforgettable stories that will stick with you long after they're shared. He's just a child, of 12 years old. His face is streaked with dirt, his clothes ragged, and his small frame shakes from both fear and exhaustion. His knees are scraped and his hands are covered in dust. He doesn't remember how he got here. All he knows is that at some point he was left behind. The boy's mind races. Who did this to him? Was it his parents? Strangers? He tries to remember anything, but his thoughts seem clouded, like they're trapped in some far-off place. He doesn't know how long he's been here, in this harsh, barren land. His stomach growls with hunger, and the thirst in his throat is unbearable. The pain in his chest, though, is worse. It's not physical. It's the pain of abandonment. He thought someone would come for him, but no one has. Tears flow freely down his cheeks now. His small hands tremble as he wipes them away. He calls out, his voice barely above a whisper. "Hello? Please, someone, help me." The wind carries his voice, but there's no answer, just the endless stretch of wilderness, with no one in sight. He shivers. The sun has almost set, casting long, cold shadows over the land. The boy is terrified, not just of the isolation, but of what could be lurking in the darkness. He's been taught to respect the wilderness, but no amount of lessons could prepare him for this, for the sheer emptiness of it, for the feeling of being utterly alone in the world. The sound of his own voice starts to fade, as if even the earth itself is turning its back on him. He calls out again, this time louder, more desperate. "Help! Someone, please!" The control room door opens, and the man sitting in it looks up. But the wind only carries his words into the void. His voice feels hollow now, like it's been swallowed by the earth itself. There is no one here. Just the wind, the earth, and the sounds of animals in the distance. He wipes his eyes and tries to stand, but his legs are weak. His body feels heavy. He stumbles forward, his feet dragging. Each step is harder than the last, but he keeps moving. Maybe if he walks far enough, he'll find someone. Maybe, if he just keeps going, he'll find a way out. But deep down, a voice inside him says he won't, not unless someone comes for him. The landscape around him is unforgiving. A flat, dry expanse of land stretches in every direction, interrupted only by small patches of dead grass and rocks. The sky, now tinged with the fading hues of sunset, offers no comfort. Every so often the boy hears a distant cry, a bird, or maybe something else, but it doesn't matter. These are the sounds of a world that isn't concerned with him. He's not a part of it. He's an afterthought. He settles back down next to the door. And then, as if mocking him, the first real wave of panic hits. He stops walking, his hands on his knees, gasping for air. There is nowhere to go, no one to call. He's alone. Truly alone. His breath comes faster now, but in the stillness there is no one to hear it. The tears return, not just from fear but from the overwhelming sense of helplessness. He realizes he doesn't know how to survive out here. He doesn't know how to get back. He thought someone would find him by now, but as the shadows grow longer, that hope begins to slip away. And just when he thinks he can't take it anymore, he hears something. A rustling sound. Not from the wind. It's coming from the direction of the tall grass ahead of him. His heart skips a beat. He freezes. Could it be? Someone? Something? He holds his breath. The rustling grows louder and the boy instinctively steps back, his eyes wide, searching the darkness. His pulse quickens. He doesn't know what it is, but something in his gut tells him to run. Docker would help him reach his destination, but he has to know first. The rustling stops. Silence falls again, and then out of the darkness it emerges. Figure, moving with deadly grace, strong, powerful. The boy can't make it out at first, just a shadow, too large to ignore. His breath catches in his throat. It's coming toward him, faster now. A lion. The boy's heart slams against his chest, his legs lock. He can't move. The lion doesn't stop, it doesn't hesitate. Its eyes, glowing amber in the twilight, lock onto the boy. There's no sound now, except for the boy's heartbeat in his ears. It's too late to run, too late to scream. But the boy doesn't do either. Instead he stands, frozen, waiting for something. Waiting to find out what the lion will do. The world goes still, as if everything, the wind, the earth, the sky itself, is holding its breath. What happens next is beyond anything the boy could have ever imagined. The lion is close now, close enough that the boy can feel its presence, like an undeniable force in the air. The lion is closer now, not charging, not growling, just there. Standing in front of the boy, its massive frame almost blocking out the last rays of sunlight. The air is thick with tension, but something strange happens in that moment. The boy doesn't run. He doesn't scream. His legs are frozen, his chest tight with fear, but his eyes are locked on the lion's gaze. The lion doesn't seem to want to attack. It simply watches him, its golden eyes unblinking, study the boy from a distance. No aggression, no hunger. There's a strange quiet in the space between them, as if the very earth is holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. The boy can hardly believe what he's seeing. His mind is racing, fighting with the overwhelming panic coursing through his veins. This is a lion, a creature that could end his life in an instant. And yet, it hasn't moved a muscle. It hasn't made a sound. Instead of running, the boy feels a wave of something unexpected. It's not fear, but something calmer, something deeper. He's terrified, yes, but there's something else. An unspoken connection. It's as if the lion is not just watching him, but waiting. The lion's gaze never leaves him. Its body is still, but the boy senses it's making a decision. He doesn't know what that decision is, but his heart beats faster. His body is frozen in place, and he can feel every inch of the earth beneath him. The wind stirs the grass around them, but still, the lion doesn't move. It's like time has slowed down. And then, without thinking, the boy does something that shocks him. His hand trembles, but he raises it, reaching out toward the lion. His fingers brush through the air, inching closer to the animal. The boy has no idea why he's doing it. Everything in him screams to run, but for some reason he can't. Something about the lion's stillness, its almost patient demeanor, holds him there. He's inches away. His fingers are now hovering just above the lion's mane. He waits. The lion hasn't moved, hasn't flinched. And then, it happened. The lion's large head shifts slightly, almost as if it's acknowledging the boy's presence. There's no sign of aggression, no sudden lunge. Instead, it leans toward him, slowly, deliberately. The boy's heart stops in his chest as he watches the lion's nose come within inches of his hand. His breath catches in his throat. And then, astonishingly, the lion gently nudges his arm. 8. The boy flinches, but the lion doesn't pull away. It's soft, almost tender. Its fur is thick, warm beneath his fingers. The boy's heart races as the lion continues to nudge him, not in a threatening way, but in a strange, calming gesture. The boy feels a warmth spread through his chest, a strange comfort he hasn't felt since he first cried out for help. His fingers graze the lion's fur, and the world around him feels like it's holding still just for this moment. His fear hasn't disappeared entirely, but it's lessening. With every second that passes, the boy begins to feel something else, something deeper. The lion's presence isn't just powerful, it feels almost protective. For the first time since he's been abandoned, the boy feels less alone. The wilderness, though still vast and empty, doesn't seem so intimidating. The lion stays with him, never straying far. The boy's fear, once all-consuming, now feels distant, like a fading memory. He watches the lion as it lies down beside him, its body forming a protective circle around him. The lion doesn't attack, it doesn't growl. It simply remains there, calm and still, as if ensuring the boy is safe. The boy feels a sense of wonder, of confusion. How could this be happening? How could this lion, this massive beast, just be here with him, offering him comfort? And more than that, how could it seem to understand exactly what he needs? It's impossible. The boy knows this deep down. But the feeling doesn't go away. The lion, without uttering a single sound, offers him the only thing he's been longing for since the moment he was left here. Safety. A feeling of being seen. Of not being abandoned. The lion shifts again, its powerful body settling more comfortably next to him. The boy, still too afraid to sleep, watches the creature, trying to make sense of it all. He wants to run. His instincts scream at him to flee. But something stops him, a pull he can't explain. He feels as if the lion has already decided what's to happen next. And right now, it doesn't seem to want him to leave. The wind picks up, blowing through the tall grass. The boy doesn't notice it, though. All he can focus on is the lion. How calm it is. How completely unlike a predator it feels. It's as if the lion, despite its size, is trying to offer him peace. The boy's heart rate slows, and with it, his thoughts clear. Maybe this isn't a chance encounter after all. Maybe this lion, this creature of the wild, has come to him for a reason. Maybe it's not just here for the boy's survival. Maybe it's here to show him that in the most unlikely of places, and under the most impossible circumstances, an unexpected bond can form. But what happens next? What is the lion's true purpose? Is it really here to protect him? Or is there something more behind its actions that neither of them fully understands yet? As the last light of the day slips away and darkness settles over the land, the boy lies down beside the lion, uncertain of what the future holds, but no longer afraid. The night is thick with tension. The boy lies beside the lion, feeling an odd sense of comfort he can't fully understand. The air is cooler now, the stars above glittering coldly, but it's as if the world around him has quieted. The lion, ever watchful, keeps its steady gaze fixed on the horizon. It's close, its presence heavy, but oddly reassuring. The boy's mind is racing, unable to settle on the events of the day, unable to grasp how a creature so powerful and deadly could offer him such solace. But deep down, something nags at him. He feels this moment is more than mere coincidence. As the wind shifts, the boy's thoughts begin to drift back. He tries to remember how he ended up here, alone in this desolate place. His mind is a maze of fragmented memories, each one sharp, filled with confusion. He was part of a family once, a family that seemed whole. The kind of family that shared meals together, that celebrated birthdays, that laughed through small moments. But one day, everything changed. It wasn't sudden, not a single event or a loud crash, but a slow unraveling. His parents began arguing more, and then one day, his mother was gone. No warning, no explanation. She simply disappeared, leaving behind a void too vast to fill. In the months that followed, his father tried to hold things together, but it was clear something had snapped. The boy never understood the reason for her absence. She just wasn't there anymore. The house grew quieter, and the distance between him and his father grew wider. The fights between them were more frequent. The boy would retreat into the woods behind their house, where the air smelled wild, where he could escape from the suffocating silence. That was when his connection to the wilderness began. He found comfort there, in the rustling leaves and the calls of distant birds. It wasn't just an escape. It was where he felt he could breathe. The animals in the woods, the squirrels, the birds, and even the distant cries of larger creatures seemed to understand him in ways no one else did. He'd always been drawn to them. He would sit for hours, watching, listening, feeling like they were the only ones who truly knew him. And then, one fateful day, his life changed forever. His father's frustrations grew. The boy had often heard him talking to himself, whispering things that made no sense, muttering about needing a fresh start, about leaving the past behind. The boy remembered that day clearly. His father had taken him into the woods promising a new adventure, but instead he had left him there, abandoned him without a word, just a fleeting glance that said it all. The boy had tried to call out, but his father had already turned his back and walked away, disappearing into the thick trees. And so, the boy was left there, just like that, alone. A bit later, as the boy relives that memory, his chest tightens. His father's absence still stings, but there's something else. Something he can't quite place. Something that pulls at him now. Something in the lion's calm presence. The boy doesn't understand it yet, but he feels it deeply. A connection, as if something greater is at play. A force that ties him to this wild world. But the lion, too, has its own story. Its life wasn't always one of freedom. In fact, it once knew a very different existence. Born in the heart of a wildlife sanctuary not far from the boy's home, the lion had grown up in proximity to humans. It wasn't exactly domesticated, but it was raised around people. The staff, including a woman who took a special interest in the lion, had cared for it, fed it, and watched it grow. But over time, the lion had grown restless in captivity. It longed for the vast stretches of land it could never reach, the freedom of the wild it was meant to know. One day, during a transfer between facilities, the lion had escaped. The sanctuary's caretakers had tried to track it down, but the lion had been too swift. For months it roamed the wilderness, learning how to survive on its own, hunting for food, avoiding danger, and finding its place in the harsh world it was born into. But something about the wild didn't feel right. The lion knew it didn't belong here forever. Its heart still belonged to the people who had raised it. And then fate had intervened. The lion's path had brought it to a clearing one day, a place that felt oddly familiar. It had paused, sensing something in the air. Its sharp senses picked up a familiar scent, one that tugged at the deep recesses of its memory. It wasn't the boy's scent, it was more than that. The lion recognized the boy. But how? In the haze of its instincts, the lion suddenly remembered the woman from the sanctuary. The boy had been a frequent visitor there. He'd been just a child, sitting on the edge of the enclosure, watching the animals, feeding the smaller creatures. His quiet presence had always intrigued the lion. The boy had always been different from the other humans, always calm and gentle in a way that set him apart. And as the lion came closer to the boy now, something clicked in its mind. The boy's energy, the way he moved, the way he felt, was familiar. The lion had seen him before, in the sanctuary, all those years ago. The lion, though wild, was not completely disconnected from its past. It had been raised among humans, and it had learned to recognize their emotions, their needs. It had sensed the boy's vulnerability from the moment it saw him, standing in the middle of the wilderness alone. And now, it understood. The boy had been abandoned, just like the lion once had, left behind by someone who was supposed to protect him. For a brief moment, the lion's primal instincts took over. The wildness inside it wanted to pounce, to hunt. But something softer, something deeper, held it back. The lion recognized the boy's sadness, his fear, and, surprisingly, his strength. The boy had survived this harsh environment just as the lion had survived the wild. The lion felt an unspoken understanding between them, a bond formed not by time but by shared pain. The boy shifts beside the lion. The wind picks up again, the cool air tugging at his clothes, but this time he feels no fear, only a strange peace. He turns and looks at the lion, and in that moment, he knows. This isn't just a chance encounter, it's something more. The boy reaches out, his hand trembling, but this time it's not in fear, it's in recognition. The lion, sensing the boy's gesture, doesn't pull back. Instead, it leans into the boy's touch, as if accepting the bond that has quietly formed between them. The boy smiles, a small tentative smile. The lion's golden eyes meet his, and for the first time the boy feels as though he's been seen, not just by a wild animal, but by something greater, something that understands. It takes a person living with the loss of someone close to them to realize how little they know and how much they can do. The truth behind this encounter isn't just about survival, it's about connection. A connection that transcends the barriers of species, of time, and of pain. The boy and the lion are linked by something deeper, something invisible. They are two lost souls in a vast wilderness, but tonight, they are no longer alone. Night begins to fall, and with it comes a chilling uncertainty. The boy, having decided to stay with the lion, follows it through the wilderness. The weight of his decision is heavy, as the boy grapples with conflicting emotions. Part of him fears the unknown, but another part, the part that can feel the lion's steady presence, feels strangely protected. As he moves through the dense brush, the landscape feels endless. It's as if the wilderness itself is swallowing him whole. His mind races with questions. Was this the right choice? The lion leads the way, moving with purpose, its body low to the ground, every step measured and sure. The boy keeps his eyes trained on the lion, trying to decipher its mind. But there's no way to know for certain what's in its mind. Yet despite the uncertainty, the boy stays close. The lion doesn't push him. It doesn't force him to move faster or stop. It simply leads, a silent guide through the wild, as if it knows something the boy does not. Every step taken feels deliberate, each pause a signal for the boy to follow, and the boy does. Against all odds, against all his fears. After walking for what seems like hours, the lion suddenly halts. It stands still, body taut, eyes scanning the horizon. The boy's breath catches in his throat. What does it sense? It's as though the lion is waiting for something, something beyond the boy's understanding. The air is thick with tension as the boy watches the lion's every move, his heart racing. Then, just as quickly as it stopped, the lion resumes its trek. The boy follows, heart in his throat. But this time, something is different. The lion seems to be guiding him more directly, leading him along a path that's hidden from view. The brush is thicker here, the landscape more treacherous, but the lion's steps remain sure and confident. The boy struggles to keep up, but the lion never falters. It's as if the lion knows where it's going, as if it's always known. And that's when the boy sees it. Just ahead, there's a narrow path emerging from the thicket. He hadn't noticed it before, hadn't even imagined that it could exist in such a vast wilderness. The lion steps onto the path and looks back at the boy, as if to say, "Follow me." The boy follows the lion onto the hidden path, his legs growing tired, but his curiosity fueling him forward. As they walk, the terrain opens up, and in the distance, the boy spots something incredible, a small, secluded village nestled at the edge of the wilderness. It's nothing like the modern towns he's known. It's a place of safety, a quiet haven that had been invisible to him until now. The village seems untouched, hidden from the outside world, as though it had been waiting for the boy to find it. The boy stops in his tracks, stunned. How could he not have seen this before? How had the lion known this place was here? The lion, sensing the boy's realization, pauses too, its eyes meeting the boy's. There's no need for words. The message is clear. The lion had been leading him to safety all along. In that moment, the boy understands. The lion's purpose wasn't just to walk beside him in the wilderness. It was guiding him toward a place where he could find safety, where he could find peace. The boy feels something he hasn't felt in a long time. Hope. The terror, the fear of the unknown, begins to melt away. The boy looks at the lion with a mix of awe and gratitude. It's not just an animal. It's more than that. The lion had sensed his vulnerability from the very beginning, had known the boy needed help before the boy even knew it himself. This bond wasn't just a random encounter. It was something sacred, something deep. The boy feels the weight of that connection settle over him like a protective shield. The boy realizes the lion's behavior wasn't just instinctual. The animal hadn't been acting out of mere curiosity or hunger. It had been guiding him because it knew. The lion had led him to this hidden village, to this safe haven, and now the boy knows it's no accident. It's as if the lion had always known that the boy was meant to be here. But there's more. As the boy watches the lion, he realizes that the animal is not just an outsider to this place. It's a part of it. The lion's presence is natural here, its movements unhurried, as if it too belongs to the land. The boy begins to understand that the connection between them is far deeper than he could have ever imagined. The lion hadn't just found him, it had known he was meant to be here, and perhaps this was a place he had been seeking without even knowing it. The boy looks back at the village, his heart still racing, but now with a different kind of urgency. He can feel the pull to go there, to enter the village and embrace the safety it offers. But as he turns back to the lion, he realizes the truth. The village is only a part of his journey. His bond with the lion goes beyond mere survival. It's a bond that will shape him in ways he cannot yet understand. The lion's presence is not just an escape from fear, it's a promise of something deeper, something that the boy will come to realize in time. The lion isn't just a guide, it's a guardian, a symbol of strength, wisdom, and survival. And as the boy steps closer, his hand brushing against the lion's mane, he knows that whatever happens next, this bond will stay with him forever. As the boy steps into the safety of the village, his heart heavy with gratitude, he takes one last. As the boy steps into the small village, his legs barely holding him up after the long journey through the wilderness, he looks back once more. The lion stands at the edge of the forest, watching him from a distance, its golden eyes unblinking. For a moment it feels like the lion might follow, but it doesn't. Instead, it turns and disappears back into the wild, as silently as it had arrived. The boy stands there, breathless and still, the enormity of what just happened beginning to sink in. He's safe, he's alive, and yet, he can't shake the feeling that he's left behind something irreplaceable. The lion. What had that connection been? Was it truly fate, or something more? He'll never know, but what he does know is that his life has changed forever. The villagers, initially shocked to see him alive after hearing his stories, offered him food, water, and warmth, but none of them fully understand what he's been through. No one else saw the lion, no one else experienced the bond between them. As the days pass in the village, the boy's thoughts are consumed by what he witnessed, by the lion that guided him, protected him. He struggles to put the experience into words. The villagers think he's just traumatized by his time alone in the wilderness, but deep down, he knows it was more than that. It wasn't just survival, it was something sacred. He can't explain it, but there's a part of him that feels connected to the lion in ways he can't even comprehend. In the weeks that follow, life in the village returns to normal. The boy is cared for, and he grows stronger. As he grows older, the boy carries the memory of the lion with him. He never forgets the calm that came over him as he touched the lion's mane. He never forgets the way it protected him, the way it knew he needed help. It changes him. The boy becomes a young man with a deep respect for nature and animals. His bond with them, which began with the lion, grows stronger as he matures. Years later, the boy, now a young man, becomes an advocate for wildlife conservation, dedicating his life to protecting animals and their habitats. His experience with the lion ignites a passion within him, one that drives him to raise awareness about the delicate balance between humans and the wild. He speaks about his encounter, though he knows many won't believe him. But the boy doesn't mind. He knows what he felt, what he saw, and that's all that matters. If you believe that nature holds secrets beyond our understanding, and that sometimes the bond between humans and animals goes beyond what we can explain, hit the like button. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the boy and the lion were connected by fate, or was there something else at play? Don't forget to subscribe for more unbelievable stories. What other extraordinary animal encounters are out there, waiting to be uncovered? Stay tuned and find out.